How blue is your heaven, by the way?
Oh, it's so blue. Like it's terribly blue. Like I'm thinking going to the doctor about it.
Hello and welcome to your May Patreon bonus episode of Predictocast, the podcast where we predict a movie storyline after watching only the first 10 minutes and knowing nothing else about it. I'm Josh, and with me as always is Skinner. Hey, Skinner.
Hey, Josh, everybody. I now come with Harvest Gold fixtures.
As always, up front, thank you for being a Patreon supporter. We really appreciate it. And because this is May and we are in the middle of Matreon month, this was also picked by one of our Patreon supporters. This is from Gigi Launchbaugh, and he had a couple of ideas for us. We had trouble finding one of his selections, but we're going to put that one in our back pocket, and we're going to bring it out again whenever we can get a good copy of that film. I'll give you a hint as to what it is to not spoil it, but it's out of this world. But this time he came with a really good backup, and that is My Blue Heaven, which might be surprising because it stars some pretty big comedy titans of the 70s and 80s and 90s, and even today, at least for one of them. How have we not seen this movie?
I mean, I have a very simple reason to see. I haven't seen this movie.
Oh yes, you've told me this, and I would like you to detail this reason for the listening audience.
Let's go into deep detail. I watched a lot of Steve Martin movies, and I was a huge Rick Moranis fan because he was in the fucking Ghostbusters. And as a kid, my dad was a huge fan of Steve Martin as well, so I did see most of his movies. To a point. But I did not like his hair on the box art for this VHS cassette, and I avoided ever watching it. Never came up on pay TV back home, and never came up on free TV back home where I watched it, and if I had seen his hair even briefly, I would have turned it off. I know that is judging a book by its haircut. It's not a mixed metaphor. I have seen shaggy books. But I feel that is enough of a reason. Back in the days of literally when you used to walk around a video store, you had one movie to pick for the weekend. That was your movie for the week if you were lucky to see the movie that week, before streaming anything and having no consequences to not yes or no on something. Where it was, it was fully like, I have driven here. I have asked my parents to use their credit card to back up this account. I hope this is one of the special rent 2 days, get a third day free weekends at the rental store. It was a big deal, and I was not going to waste that time on that haircut.
Speaking of that haircut, you had a pretty astute observation. It's a little David Lynchy. I feel like we're going to be talking about this movie as if everybody else has seen it, because maybe they have, maybe they haven't. But if you haven't seen it, go look at the cover art for My Blue Heaven. It's a little David Lynchy. It's a little Kramery. It's a little like 80s kind of greaser punk vibe, a little bit.
Yeah, if you think about Steve Martin, the first thing you're going to think of is white hair. And this is not. It's not white hair. And it's like, that's not what I'm paying for. It also, he's playing a character, much like he would, in a sketch, much like he would. And he looks like a cartoon inserted in the real world so far in this 10 minutes.
A little bit, yeah.
Especially in the sharper HD rental that I have gotten. It just he's wearing a costume rather than he is a fully formed creature.
For sure. He definitely is going for a thing. He's playing Vinny. Oh God, what was his name? I had it and then I lost it.
Vincent Applebee's.
Vincent Applebee's. That's it. No, it is
Vinny Chili's too.
Vinny Chili's too. No, he's playing Vincent Vinny Antonelli. And so it seems clear that he is supposed to be playing an Italian person. I think this is based on a real person, I believe, or at least the story is perhaps based in some sort of reality, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
I don't know. Who's ever heard of FHA fraud? That seems a little out there. So
I don't know.
So we were talking about my reasons for not watching. This is like a bit of a Cousins situation where it's a movie that a lot of people probably have fondness from the times because they did pick it for that weekend.
I still can't believe that when we that was our very first episode. We covered a weird cultural artifact called Cousins with Ted Danson and some other people, and all these people were like, "Oh man, I remember seeing that movie." I was like, I don't know how.
I think it's that informed us of a few things. I think originally with the idea of the show, we were going to go more like this movies that a lot just to grab people's attention, movies that had stars that we hadn't saw the movie, and that quickly turned into a game of before we had any listeners compared to what we have now of like, oh, I can't believe you didn't see that, which honestly probably is a legitimate complaint. And we're not like we're doing a fucking podcast where we pretend we didn't see the Phantom Menace. That's an inside joke between me and Mr. Hollis. But it was one of those things like, I don't want that reaction and response to everything we do. So let's pick movies that no one's fucking saw.
Yeah.
But this one is one of those. And you said you had a hole in your filmography that is kind of lanky, likes to play like the ukulele banjo, puts arrows on his head, has white hair. You haven't watched a lot of Steve Martin movies.
No, I haven't. And it's weird because it's like that thing, a lot of the people that I respect in like comedy and stuff like that, they adore Steve Martin. Like, they talk about him like he is a comedy god. And it's not that I think that they're wrong, because I don't really have any real connection to that. There are things that I have seen, obviously. And I thought it might be fun before we kind of go into the movie, because it will feel weird talking about this movie since I feel like people would have seen it. But hey, maybe we're kind of coming in one of those weird underseen Steve Martin movies. I don't know. But I was going to go through his kind of filmography and see, like, if there was anything that jumped out at me or that I could point to and go, oh, I have seen that, or no, I haven't seen this. So I'll start with, like, the first one that at least I remember, like, seeing, and that's The Jerk. Like, I have seen The Jerk.
Okay, that is pretty much the seminal movie. I mean, his character,
yeah.
That his base character that he's playing when he's playing himself is the jerk.
Yes. So I have seen that. That was from 1979. I don't believe I've seen Pennies from Heaven. I don't think I've seen Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. I don't think I've seen The Man with Two Brains. I don't even think I've heard of The Lonely Guy, All of Me, Movers and Shakers.
Oh, All of Me was a big fucking deal.
Haven't seen Three Amigos.
What? That's the one that's going to piss off everybody. In fact, you haven't seen Three Amigos.
Haven't seen that. I know what it is.
You know who's in it. You know the dance?
Maybe?
Oh my God.
I've seen Little Shop of Horrors, but I guess I don't think about him being in that because he's the dentist, right? I've only seen that like once or twice, so I don't really remember.
It's not really a Steve Martin vehicle.
Yes.
The property itself is the vehicle. They just happen to get an all-star cast for it.
I've never seen Roxanne.
You haven't seen Roxanne?
Nope. I've seen Plane, Trains, and Automobiles.
Because you're a John Candy fan.
Sure. But it was a long time ago, so I don't really remember it. Never seen Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. I don't think.
Jerk 2.
I've not seen Parenthood. I don't think I've seen L.A. Story.
L.A. Story is if you're talking about a movie that like people.
Well, don't tell me about it. We should do it on the show. Maybe.
I've seen it.
Well, it could be a special. Like I could watch L.A. Story and then go to the locations in the film.
Well, I think you should. I think that should be one of our things to special episodes where I make you watch. Now since you're L.A. Josh, you're Hollywood Hollis. Like that is the movie. I'm not telling you the plot, but like if you were California back then, like that is the movie that was skewering it in a way that like if you were a comedian, you thought like, oh, he nailed it. Like he's doing stuff that like no one else is talking about because they're doing New York movies.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll do that in the future as a special Patreon bonus episode. I have seen Father of the Bride. Don't really remember it. Don't know what Grand Canyon is. Don't think I've seen House Sitter. I've seen House Guest, which I would like to do a double header of House Sitter and House Guest, and let's see which one's better. I've not seen Leap of Faith. Don't know what that is. I don't think I've seen A Simple Twist of Fate. I have seen Mixed Nuts. I've not seen Father of the Bride Part 2. Haven't seen Sergeant Bilko.
Oh, that's a damn shame.
Haven't seen The Spanish Prisoner.
There's literally after like Father of the Bride, there's this culturally relevantness of it just kind of just fucking drops.
Yeah, I haven't seen The Out of Towners. I've seen Bowfinger. Don't know what Joe Gould's secret is. Haven't seen Novocaine. Didn't see Bringing Down the House.
So the house was never
the
brought
one
down
he
in
does.
your world.
Isn't that the one he does with Queen Latifah?
Maybe.
I think that is. I think that's the one he does with her, and like he learns to be cool or something.
That's probably culturally sensitive and not weird to watch at this point.
Yeah, not in any way like terribly offensive now. Let's see. I didn't see the Looney Tunes back in action.
I forgot that existed. That and the Rocky and Bullwinkle movies are movies that I guess kind of fade out that they ever released those things.
Yeah. Haven't seen Cheaper by the Dozen. Actually, I might have seen parts of it, but I've never seen the whole thing.
Not the full dozen.
No, nor the sequel. I've heard Shop Girl is really good, but I've never watched it.
I've read that book.
He
wrote on about it.
I've never seen the Pink Panther remake just because it looked like shit. I've seen Baby Mama. I forgot he was in that. I have seen It's Complicated with him and I think that's him and Meryl Streep and Alec Baldwin in like a weird love triangle. Yeah. I've seen that because I think Alec Baldwin is like naked on a webcam or something in that one.
It's the sort of thing you don't forget.
Yeah, he's naked or he like comes in naked and Steve Martin gets an eyeful or something like that.
So in that movie, Alec Baldwin comes naked. Good to know.
Yeah. The Big Year, I think I watched part of that. That's with it's with Jack Black and Owen Wilson and their bird watchers, and it was honestly boring as hell. So I basically didn't finish it because it was so fucking dull. He's a voice in a couple things that I didn't see. Didn't see that. I did not see Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk. Didn't even know he was in that.
Well, I'm sure that's the one everyone's just going to crow about. Like, I can't believe you haven't watched that movie.
And that's it. I think that's the last real movie that he's been in.
I think this has to do with your age because I am mildly older than you, and when I was growing up,
come on.
When I was growing up because everyone's important years of SNL is different, Saturday Night Live. So like your years whenever you hit a certain age, right? Where you were allowed to stay up that late or
I do what I want all the time because I'm grown.
Right. So when you're a grown up boy or a grown up girl and you decide like, I'm going to stay up till in Nova Scotia it was 12:30, so that fucking sucked before we had good VHSs. Or everything like that. He as a host and for like special episodes where they show like best of and stuff, he was incredibly important in those days.
Oh yeah,
So to
I
me-
remember some of his I remember some SNL stuff for sure. Like I've seen clips and things with him in them, and I've seen some of his stand up and like some of the music and things like that. And I've seen some stuff that he's done with Martin Short, like recently. So like I know who he is culturally. Like I'm not ignorant. I just have never really invested in learning his filmography or
Right.
giving it the time it needs to watch all of it.
It just like at that time, like anything he put out, if you were that age, seemed like you should go see it because this is the comedian for film.
Yeah.
And that would have been right before you really started getting into Surf Ninjas.
That movie's so good.
That movie is so good. And who could forget First Kid since we're on the Patreon?
We spent way too long on that, but basically my knowledge of Steve Martin's filmography is very limited, so that's why I never saw this movie. I guess I probably didn't know it existed. I've probably seen more Rick Moranis movies than I have Steve Martin movies, who is also in this film.
Oh, I think we mentioned that already. So
did we? I don't remember. We got off on a weird tangent, and then I just forgot everything.
I'm never as concerned about staying on format as much on the Patreon because I've already got their money. On the main show,
don't make them cancel for next month.
I've already got their money. On the main show, I'm trying to suck them in, and here I just let you read things for a while.
But yeah, so for those who don't know, I guess we should kind of go through the 10 minutes that we watched.
The glacially paced 10 minutes. Movie.
So this is fun, actually. I do like going back and kind of watching these movies and like from the 80s and the 90s, like when pacing is so different. And where it feels like they are really just taking their time. And yet this film is still only an hour and 37 minutes.
Because if this is a movie of that time, it has it's character based, so the story isn't terribly important, and it has one idea, which is we have two characters, we're going to set them up slowly so you get to understand each of them. We're going to shove them together, where they're going to have conflict. They're gonna learn about themselves,
and they're gonna solve a crime. Is that what you're about to say?
Crime. A lot
There's
of the
been
time,
a murder.
They solve a crime. You know that's true.
They probably will solve some sort of crime.
Well, we do have.
Vinny what it'll be. He'll be He'll be the he's so good because he's so good at solving crimes because he is committing them.
Right. He understands the criminal element because he wears a shiny suit. But we have two people who learn about each other, learn about themselves, and then the movie ends. Like that is literally so many of these movies. You are there for the two stars to interact, and they take the first little bit just to set up the world a little bit and set up the characters' pacing. Like this character moves at this speed and acts like this. This character moves at this speed and acts like this. Wouldn't it be funny if they got smooshed together in a long car trip? What if they got stuck in a box together? What if it was these two stars stuck in a fucking cardboard box that had the word time machine written on the outside of it? Wouldn't that be funny for an hour and 40 minutes?
That would be amazing. So we open in the middle of nowhere in this tiny little town. And it says, thankfully, the film gives us these nice little on-screen title cards to set things up for us in case we weren't paying attention.
It's like Vinny is writing them, but he does not appear to be an author type.
No,
it's from his perspective.
Yeah, it's weird. Because it says this is the beginning of the story in which I moved to a small community in the middle of nowhere and my marriage ends or something like that. And we see Rick Moranis, who's playing Barney Cooper Smith. As you pointed out, the first time he's played a Barney, he's probably played other Barneys before now, but let's draw a comparison to the Flintstones movie.
I think this is basically a stealth Flintstones pilot. They're trying to set up like, don't you want to see this guy as Barney Cooper Smith?
Cooper Smith could have been, just change it to like Barney Coppersmith, and that could be what am I thinking of? American Revolution-esque version of the Flintstones.
I just like this family that is so highfalutin that they're two vocational names. They're Coopers and they're Smiths.
So he works with the FBI. He pulls up in front of this house in front of which is a big, large moving truck, and he lets these folks out of the back seat. There's a woman with red hair. This is Linda. And then a man gets out of the other side. This is Steve Martin. This is Vinny. And they're in witness protection, basically. They have he's a mobster, as we come to find out. He's in organized crime, and they've gone into witness protection with the FBI. They're now Todd and Terry, which they have a tough time figuring that out, how to call each other by the right names.
He's talking to you, Mr. Thompson. Stomp, stomp.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, actually, that Simpsons gag.
So he's dressed like Max Headroom.
Oh, that is what he looks like. You were right. What I was also thinking is he kind of looks like, if you were to invert him color-wise, he would look like his comedy pal Martin Short in Santa Claus 3 when he's playing Jack Frost.
He does kind of look like a warm Jack Frost from the Santa Claus 3.
This is the heat miser.
And his wife looks like crime boss wife version of Peg Bundy.
Yeah, she's a little Peg Bundy. She's a little Wilma from the Flintstones. We want to keep that going.
Well, she has red hair, and we don't know if she loves to shop yet, but we never know. I hope at some point the boys go bowling for the water buffaloes.
Well, we can safely assume, thanks to our little title card, that their marriage is going to dissolve, because as soon as the FBI is gone, she is talking about there's a train back to New York at like this time. She's calling a cab, trying to get out of there. Like, she wants to go back to where she came from, even though that might be dangerous. Like, are we going?
I know city folk can't stand the slow-paced life of what appears to be a normal suburb that just happens to be being built in the middle of nowhere. There's a horse
in the middle of a horse farm.
In the middle of a horse farm. But it's not like they were moving into a cottage in the middle of nowhere. It's like a fucking modern house, right? It's just a new development. The 80s and 90s were very confused by this new suburbs.
What's that cool suburb that they're building in Back to the Future? Lion Estates. That's where this is.
I wish it was like Celebration, Florida. Maybe much better. But like, I understand that a fully formed character even, would not be happy with their situation. But knowing that they are under witness protection on a large mob case, important star witnesses, I don't care how much you miss the amenities of home and you can't stand the quietness of this middle of nowhere. Perhaps you could gut it out to save your fucking life.
I'm wondering if later in the movie we're going to get like a really flippant comment about the fact that she went back to New York and was immediately murdered by the mob.
I mean, that would be misogynistic, but the character is so one note. It's just like she's wearing leopard skin tights, big beehive red bouffant hair like she's from the B-52s. That black sweater, big, long nails, just that character. She's not a real, much like Steve Martin, she's a cartoon walking around this world, and her cartoon, her little internal AI is set to, I've got to go back to the city. And that's all, like, there's no if, but, when, then, or hows. It's just like, oh, I am a character that belongs in this backdrop. This backdrop is different. I need to get back. Well,
it's kind of like with those little title cards, which I'm assuming will continue throughout the rest of the movie, because we have that opening one, and it basically sets up exactly the scene that we are about to see. It says, This is the beginning of the story. I moved to a small town in the middle of nowhere. My marriage ends. And that plays out in that scene. Like, he moves to this small town. His marriage is obviously rough, and it probably will fall apart in the next scene that we see them together.
Which is funny because it's actually Bernie's marriage that falls apart first on screen.
It is, yeah, because then we have another card.
You can't forget that Bernie asks him for his social security number, and he doesn't know it, and he very, 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 very slowly pads the runtime of his podcast by just saying one number at a time and going far too many numbers.
It's a good joke, I guess. It's a good delivery. Like, Steve Martin is a comedy titan, so he knows how to tell jokes, and he knows how to like deliver things in a funny way. And it's done fairly well, but it goes back to that idea of watching films from, a different time when filmmaking was different, and when you could really just stretch a joke for as long as you wanted to like really let it land. And it's weird to kind of see that play out, because I feel like things would be either they would go faster if this joke were told today, or it would get interrupted before the entire number came out.
Like, they would make it so that he said too many numbers quickly, so that
basically
Rick
this
Moranis.
this joke has been told for my generation, which was in Tommy Boy, when David Spade asked Chris Farley for a phone number, and the way that Chris Farley delivers it is he just kind of starts babbling, and then he says like niner, and it is basically that same joke. It's a person who doesn't know a number when they should, but they're being delivered in different ways.
And like I said, and I'm someone who on a podcast sometimes slows down how I speak to make a really dumb point. When I do one of my weird rants about how I'm annoyed with something in a podcast, I'll just get real slow and make pauses when I really want the next line that I'm building to hit. This is going way slower than this. It's like 1, pause. 5, pause. 7, 6, pause. And it works, mostly because who's doing it, but it is an odd pacing. I still think the funniest thing to me so far in the whole movie is the horse being outside the window, because
just there in the background,
we're just chewing like it's not a wild horse. It's like someone, like, there's nothing there except for a horse.
Yeah,
like a domesticated horse is just.
Well, that's what I said. This town is being built in the middle of a horse farm.
But usually you buy off the horse farm first and get rid of the horses.
No, that was part of it. We keep the horses.
The horses are your landlords.
Just be sure to not put your apple pies on your windowsill. Those horses will come over and take them.
What if there's horses outside? Because now you're on the land of some sort of feudal lord who has a cavalry.
There's a castle off in the distance.
It's the land of gentry.
You're the serfs.
Yes. So we switch over to Barney Coopersmith's story. He is also having his problem. We found out that he's Vinny's new friend, so we know they're friends at some point.
we get that title card that basically says my new friend Barney Coopersmith has his own problems too. So it's like, oh, okay, cool. We get to see what's wrong with his life now. So
that's exciting. We find out that he's in the FBI. Like I said, Vinny is his government witness, and his boss is like, make sure he stays safe. He's a star witness. And they mentioned the FHA fraud, and he's kind of just bored with working the exciting life of FHA fraud. And who can't really connect with Federal Housing Administration fraud stories? He wants more excitement, though. He wishes he could go undercover. He wishes he could wear a windbreaker.
And eat bad food.
Which is funny because we're told later by his soon-to-be ex-wife that he is incredibly boring, uninteresting, and does everything the same every day. He takes a shit the same time every day. They don't say that, but it's assumed.
Well, of course. I mean, if he has a process for eating pancakes in a specific way, he certainly has his bowel movements timed to a specific schedule.
And to a specific stall, you know? Like, he's not going to use the other stall. He'll wait outside the stall he wants to use.
So much so that his office compatriots know that at 9:13, after 1.5 cups of coffee, Barney Coopersmith is going to come in, and you have to have that second stall open, because if you don't, it's going to screw up not only his day, but also your day.
Because you know he's going to be talking about the rest of the day.
Yeah.
He'd be leaving,
I'm just feeling off today
for
because I didn't get that stall that I needed.
I'm behind schedule. Like, the meeting's going to have to be delayed because I'm like 3 minutes behind. God forbid.
Exactly.
God forbid he doesn't get to go, and then he's just blocked up all day and he's just walking funny.
Yeah, so he's having his own problems. He's kind of bored with the work he's doing. But to be fair, like, blame TV and movies on this, but stakeouts do look really awesome.
They do, but I mean, you don't like, part of staking out is not moving much, and I really enjoy moving now and then.
I mean, I like think
move,
about it.
I
Like,
like
being in a car.
Yeah, being in a car. Is it a cool car, though?
Well, no, like being in a car and like your partner brings in some coffee and like some takeout Chinese, and you got some binoculars or a camera, and you're trying to be like covert, and you're trying to like watch your subject, and you might be waiting for a while for him to show up or for any kind of movement to happen. But you can learn a lot about his routine, the environment. Just sounds like it'd be awesome.
Here's my theory about if you were actually staking out. Almost 99% of humans is that people are fucking boring, and I don't like, if I learned more about people's lives, I would just feel just existential dread that we're all just on fucking treadmills, and we're, every one of us, no matter how powerful or how famous or how insignificant, that none of us are doing anything of worth minute to minute in our lives. And just some people's highs are a little more exciting than other people's highs, but there's that 23 other hours of the day where we're just like drinking coffee and taking shits and sitting there and considering cutting our nails, but considering the fact that we may not want to walk around the room and try to find the nail cutter. And if we want to cut our nails right where we're at, or we want to get over the sink, or we want to get over the garbage can, none of it's that important. And just watching someone else go through that while eating takeout, I may die.
Well, I was going to suggest when we see each other soon, we should find a person to stake out and record a podcast about it.
If we did it about someone else who has a different podcast, would it be considered a crossover podcast?
Sure. We'll stake out Phil, our
deep in, like, instead of deep, he's got deep in bear country. We'll do our episode deep in Phil country.
Deep in Phil country. Speaking of our joke about Rick Moranis' character not being able to take a shit in the right place, that's apparently one of the definitions on Urban Dictionary as to what my blue heaven is.
Explain this a little bit for the folks out there.
So it is connected to. It says it's a freshly cleaned stall, such as in a first class airplane, which is weird. It's but their example is finally I can take a shit in peace. This bathroom is my blue heaven. But the other two seem to be when you go to a public bathroom for some sit-down business and you find blue toilet water signifying a freshly cleaned stall. Oh,
I mean, that is a treat.
Sure,
the seat's probably still warm though. Someone else's butt flesh heat.
But anyway, we should not talk about shit anymore.
So let's talk about Wally's soon-to-be ex-wife. No,
who?
Not Wally.
Barney.
Wally's soon-to-be wife.
Wally's the thief.
Through Wally, we find out this town is so boring that you would leave it for Wichita.
What is this town, by the way? Do we know?
I don't remember. I was still busy looking at his fucking hair.
Yeah, he's coming home. His wife is a sports psychologist. He does offer Vinny and Linda some tickets to a game because she gets free tickets to the baseball team's games there. And he comes home. His wife's name is on their mailbox as sports psychologist. And he finds a guy coming out of his house. This guy is Wally. He's a player for the team. It turns out he just got transferred. And not transferred, traded. It's not like a business. We're putting you out on the branch in Wichita.
That's not that off. They have fancy words for just treating employees like cattle.
True. But he's coming out, and Barney has just heard that he's been traded, and he's like, hey, I'm sorry, you got to go to Wichita. That sucks. I know my wife's going to miss you. And he's like, well. And then his wife comes out, and she's like, yeah, I'm going to, because you're boring, and you're too structured, and I need some spontaneity, basically, in my life. And I'm ready to, have a something different. And so, yeah, his life is pretty much ruined, but it basically sets up the story that we know they're going to tell, which is a criminal and a good guy coming together, learning from each other, rubbing off on each other a little bit so that Barney loosens up a little bit and is not so uptight and kind of relaxes his schedule, and Vinny stops breaking the law as much and does some good in his life and stops caring about only himself, maybe.
Do you think they'll find some new broads?
What? God. Yeah, probably.
I mean, we have to at least have a new female character to bounce off this new, freer, less uptight version of Barney Coopersmith to show that he is now desirable. Perhaps they have a scene where he's too much like Vinny, and it turns out he can't live with himself being that way. Like, he treats a woman like trash, and he's like, oh, I've gone too far. Or, even better, none of that happens, and he just buys a suit that looks like the same suit that Vinny's wearing, and that's funny.
Certainly they're going to dress alike at some point.
I want a shopping montage in this nothing town that has a baseball team and a sports therapist in this nothing town.
Well, I mean, this cast is pretty good. We've got Steve Martin, we've got Rick Moranis, Joan Cusack will show up at some point, Carol Kane, Daniel Stern, William Hickey, everyone's favorite old man, will show up at some point in this. So
I hope he's foul-mouthed.
So it's gonna be great, right?
I mean, this is at least going to be competent.
Exactly.
That's
that
something.
Is key. It's written by Nora Ephron, also a person who I don't have a ton of familiarity with. Like, I've seen, she did You've Got Mail, I think, right?
Yeah. And
maybe?
it's also produced by Goldie Hawn.
Oh, well, that's something. Herbert Ross, the director, he's done a bunch of stuff that I'm not, again, super familiar with, but he did Still Magnolias, Footloose, so, like, he's not a nobody.
I mean, this is of these three movies. This is clearly the cultural touchstone of his oeuvre.
I mean, that is, yeah, I think so. So, yeah, I think this is a good place to wrap up this first part, which went a little longer than I was expecting.
You made no predictions, and I predicted that they were going to wear matching suits.
I predicted things? What are you talking about? I predicted that I'll watch a Steve Martin movie finally.
The predictocast is now about Josh predicting things he's going to do. At 11 o'clock, he's going to take a shit. The fifth day of every month, he's going to get a haircut. What day did the dogs come to the office, Josh? If it's wrong, the dogs can't come in.
Tuesday.
All right, cool. So cute.
And if you want to know if any of what we've talked about in this first unintelligible half comes true in the rest of the movie, you're going to have to wait like 3 seconds. We'll see you after the break.
Later, dudes. By later, I mean in a minute.
we have now watched the rest of My Blue Heaven, and we are going to talk about it. I guess. I mean, we kind of predicted the movie pretty much in part one. I mean, we missed a few little details, like the weird baseball subplot, but other than that, I think we were pretty spot on.
I mean, we got the wardrobe predictions right. We got the basic plot right. I didn't predict that a lot of the movie would be... A lot of the plot points would moved along very much through dance.
Okay, now this is how I want to start. This is how I want to start, because...
You do you. Come on, what's up?
Well, you know, as we said before we started recording, there's not a lot to this movie. It's not a movie that we're going to sit down and kind of be baffled by. Like, it hits the numbers pretty well. It does what it's supposed to do and what you expect pretty well. It's not bad, but also it's kind of right down the middle, like a good pitch to keep going with baseball, you know? But when was merengue really big in the U.S.? Because I don't remember this time in our lives, but boy, oh boy, if this movie would have you, if this movie is to be believed, it was everywhere in 1990.
Not even the forbidden dance, really. If it was forbidden, Rick Moranis would not be doing it. But my God, there are two dance sequences to move along relationships expanding in this movie. Like, we can't show it through character interactions. We'll just have characters start dancing together, and that solves all their problems. My issue with this movie, and it is very much a 1990s comedy, character-driven, actor-driven comedy. Exactly what you think it's going to be. My main thing, which just drove me nuts the entire movie, is that Steve Martin's portrayal of an Italian mobster, which I said the first part is completely comedic. His accent's all over the fucking place. His hair is ridiculous. He looks like someone making a Hanna-Barbera cartoon in 1981's idea of what a mobster in New York looks like.
Uh-huh.
Like the Good Feathers in Animaniacs was a much stronger portrayal thanks to their hewing close to the performances on Goodfellas. But that's fine. That's if you're going to make this movie and have him do this caricature, which is so honest to God bad, it's fucking awful. If you were to play it like it's for laughs awful, like he doesn't know how to do an Italian accent. This is a California boy through and through doing this cartoon street. Don't put actual Italian American actors around him, because every time he's surrounded by them, it is like a punch in the face.
That's okay. So this brings up another thing that like is always confounding to me when I see movies where you have this well-known actor who is playing something that he is not around people who are that thing, and they could have easily cast, this person or that person to play this role. The thing that comes to mind immediately, and it's far worse than My Blue Heaven, we've talked about this on the podcast before, because you've never seen Tiptoes, right?
I have not, no.
Okay. Well, I've seen it a ton of times. I need to make you watch it at some point. But it is the story of these two brothers, one played by Matthew McConaughey, one played by Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman plays a little person, and he shares many scenes with actual little people actors, and I just can't. And he's on his knees, like he's basically doing a dwarf. Rest in peace, Tim Conway. And it's just like, how did they square that in their brains that this guy? I mean, yeah, Gary Oldman's a big actor, but the movie was not like a big film or anything. It was fairly small. It got released, buried, barely anybody knew about it until it started hitting, the internet and clips of it and stuff. I think like Tosh.0 showed some scenes from it, and then it got really big. But like, how did those people feel? And then getting back to My Blue Heaven, how did the people who are playing his family members or his friends who are actual, have actual Italian heritage. How do they feel about that? Like, they just go along with it because it's Steve Martin, and it was also 1990 or 1989 or whenever they were shooting this, when when representation wasn't that important, or that you could be mad about it but no one was willing to listen to you.
I mean, I'm sure at some point they're like, at least I'm playing an Italian, I'm not playing a Native American.
I mean, yeah.
But like, if you picture this character, and if somehow you haven't seen this like us, and you go look at the poster, you know exactly what Steve Martin looks like, and the way in motion it's worse. But if him as this character walked onto the show Sopranos, it would be the most off-putting thing in the world.
Yeah, but they would kill him, or it would come out that he was faking and he was trying to be cool, and they would drop this stupid accent, you idiot.
Right. And the only thing I can think of is like if you had a room full of mice, just tons of mice, and they're swarming over each other, they're shitting in the corner, they're chewing on shit, and in walks Mickey fucking Mouse. And he says, "Oh, my brothers, oh, my mom, we are reunited." And it's like, no, you can't do this. You can't have them that have an actual Italian mom, and you can't. Okay, this movie is predicated on the bit. Like, one of the Steve Martin things is the liar, right? So the idea of this movie is we will have Steve Martin commit crimes as his Italian mobster, and I put Italian in quotes and mobster in quotes. But people will catch him immediately every time. And then the joke of the movie is that you get to watch him talk his way out of the lies in a comical fashion.
Yeah.
He always has a broad lie that it's obviously a lie, but apparently the conceit of the movie is he's incredibly charming. But he's not.
No. And I need to point this out too, because I mentioned in part one that I thought that he was maybe based on a real person, and it turns out he is. This movie is based on Henry Hill, the guy who was the basis of Goodfellas, and it was written by Nora Ephron, who was married to the guy who wrote the book Wise Guy, which Goodfellas was based on. So they just tag teamed this thing, talked to Hill together, and both got movies out of it in the same year.
I'm going to make a very specific reference that if you have listened to or will listen to, I don't know the release dates on this quite yet. We haven't sussed it out. If you're a huge predictocast fan, I almost can't even say it. The idea of it is so ridiculous. But his portrayal of this charming Italian mobster, who is not only an Italian mobster, but he is one who can out-talk and out-hustle any other Italian mobster. The other Italians look up to him at how Italian he is. He loves marinara. If him as this character in this movie is as if you made a biopic of Princess Diana, and you starring in that movie, you cast the fucking doll from the Diana clone and put it in every scene, and everyone pretended it looked just like her.
I mean,
like no one would act like it's a doll, and no one acts like he is anything other than the most Italian person they have ever met in small. Like, if the joke was he lives he's being in witness protection in this small nothing town that doesn't know any city folk.
It's not a small nothing town though. It's like right next to San Diego.
It's right next to San Diego. They have baseball team. It's I don't know why they act like it's like this is New York, LA's idea of a small town. It's not really small town. Like, there aren't Trump voters in this town. They aren't fucking chasing you out of town. But if the idea was like, okay, he's pretending to be a parody of a city guy, an Italian mobster, and they don't know any better, that'd be something. And also, this movie about halfway through decides, you know what? That whole premise of him being this mobster in a small town, kind of boring. Let's bring him back to New York for a while.
Well, he's got to go back to testify, man. That's part of the story.
The story, okay.
It's just they ran out of stuff. I mean, it's like, well, we don't really have anything to do with him in.
Well, he can fall in love with Carol Kane for 2 scenes, and then she's out of the movie.
That was the most bizarre thing in the world. Like when he spots her in the ice cream section and drops that great line of "You shouldn't stand around here because you'll melt everything," and then she just kind of is like, "Yep, this is my guy," and then they go off and get married very quickly.
And then she's not in the movie anymore.
And then she disappears. And then he's like got the hots for this cop suddenly. And you're just like, okay, cool.
Well, they set up that she has the hots for him, the cop, Crystal. And like that, you think like, oh, that'll come back. And then they insert this in the middle. And you're like, I guess that's over with. And then they're like, oh, it's back to them together again. It's like, oh, by the way, they're no longer married. I guess. She shows up late. It's like someone knew Carol Kane or like, can you show up for like 10 minutes on set? We think it'd be funny if you hung out with Steve Martin in a grocery store. Or she was at an actual grocery store near where they were shooting. And they're like, can we bring the cameras in here? What? And I know he bought a lot of steak, but why the fuck couldn't he steer that shopping cart? Shopping carts a lot more difficult to maneuver back in the 1990s?
I think it's just supposed to demonstrate to us that Barney doesn't know anything about shopping. Like the way it treats him at the beginning is almost like he's this super rich, an alien, or I was going to say a super rich guy who's never had to do his own shopping before, because he goes into the grocery store and it's like he's never seen carts, and it's a very bizarre like way that he reacts to this stuff.
Don't you know that New Yorkers only eat at restaurants, and they've never been in a store in their lives because they live on the streets, the city that never sleeps.
Oh my God,
the city that never shops.
When he said, I grew up on the sidewalk of the city that never sleeps, and I was like, oh my God, shut up. This is the most cliched thing I've ever heard.
And we'll get into the plot in a second here, but the idea, like, he's supposed to lay low because he's a star witness. They talk loudly in crowded areas constantly about how he is in witness protection. He constantly gets arrested. He constantly goes out. He constantly escapes Barney. He constantly is in the public eye. But like the consequences are he gets shot at twice. But we're supposed to think this guy who is human garbage, it's because the movie's telling us he's charming. It's okay that there's no comeuppance for him. Like in reality, like he needed to get captured and tortured. And then Barney showing up and saying like, see, I fucking told you. Instead, he gets Barney laid.
Yeah, like basically nothing does happen to him. Like it all kind of works out pretty well. And granted, this is a comedy. It's very lighthearted. There's never anything too serious about like everything that's going on. Like no one is really that worried about stuff. Like things happen that would be much bigger deals, like an FBI agent beating up a man, which comes to nothing. Like Daniel Stern is in this movie for 2 scenes.
Why did they? Okay, I know maybe he hadn't hit his full Home Alone powers yet.
Well, no, but he was still in stuff, I think, right?
I mean, I suppose like a cameo as a ex-husband who's kind of a dick.
Yeah, he's kind of a dick. I mean, he's pretty much a dick. So yeah.
But like, it's like the scene. I'm like, I kept looking at like, that's Daniel Stern's in that role. He's on screen for 5 seconds. He gets put in a hammerlock and shoved out a door.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the hindsight thing of us looking back and going, oh, I recognize this person. Why are they not in it more? Like, you know, why is Carol Kane not in it more? Why is Daniel Stern not in it more?
But I think Carol Kane at this point had been in things like she hadn't been in Theodore Rex yet, which is important for her career. I mean, she'd been in Scrooged.
Oh yeah, of course. So I mean, there isn't really a ton of story. I mean, you've kind of already gone through it. There's a couple of different scenarios where he gets picked up for stuff, and the first one that kind of kicks off like the main kind of storyline, I guess, as it were, of the film is that he's arrested for stealing a car. And it turns out that, he after he went to the grocery store, he ended up just stealing a car. He ends up meeting up with someone from the DA's office named Hannah Stubbs. This is Joan Cusack. And she sort of enters the movie here and is sort of the foil for him. And she has a thing for Barney because it's weird because she has this conversation with Crystal at the very beginning, and Crystal says that she finds Vinny cute, and this is when Hannah says something about like she's never felt the hairs rise up on the back of her neck when she sees a man before, which to me that seems like that's a danger signal. That's like, oh, Spidey sense tingling, there's danger here, but Crystal sees it as a good thing.
So the way Crystal reacts to a man she's attracted to the same way she would as if a poltergeist was in her house.
Yeah, it's I'm in love. Also, I might be stabbed by this man here. Like, it's one or the other.
I mean, that is 1990s romance kind of in movies summed up. But like,
Jesus.
They set up like, okay, immediately you know that Hannah Stubbs, great name, Joan Cusack is going to be Rick Moranis' love interest because they are dressed at an equal level of
drabness.
Steve Martin's Vincent Vinny, keeps making fun of her for wearing flats, because that's great, and she is the DA in this quote unquote small town. She's excited to have a grand theft auto because it will make her busy. But
yeah, I think it's just she's bored out of her mind, so she wants something cool to do.
But she's written so stupid as far as like she would be someone who's very competent, right? She's the DA, right?
Yeah.
But when Rick Moranis comes in and is like, oh, yeah, this guy's a dick. Yeah, he committed a crime, but we have a bigger fish to fry. He's under witness protection, and he's a star witness against a mobster. He's got 2 trials to go to. And then she throws a hissy fit that she has to put him on public trial. This person in this thing would never do that.
No, she would know what's at stake, basically by him saying, like, he's in witness protection. Like, she might be pissed because she wasn't alerted to the fact that this criminal was in their town. But in hindsight, it doesn't matter because there's tons of criminals in her town.
They put the entire mob in one town because the FBI is stupid. But like, I mean, if she did this and she ruined the case, they would probably arrest her immediately. Like, the FBI coming like, okay, you fucking blew our case against a mobster.
You're going to be disbarred or something.
Disbarred, or like, yeah, you're going to federal prison. Like,
yeah,
she wouldn't. Yeah. It was one thing for her to be pissed, but she throws a fucking little kid tantrum, and this is how she's portrayed constantly. And Vinny outsmarts her at every turn.
Yeah, it's.
He basically tricks her into falling in love with Barney through dance.
Yes, and the end when the whole plot is over with and she confronts them about, we'll get there, but basically he's embezzling money and then he decides to put it into a new baseball stadium for this little league team after he gets caught, essentially, and even though fucking Barney knows that Vinny was lying and is only doing this to save face and to not go to jail, like, he goes along with it and basically gaslights this lady into just saying, it's fine, don't worry about it, let's be in love now. Like, it's kind of shitty.
It is pretty shitty. I mean, like, we're supposed to think like, okay, Barney's smoother now, but he's being shitty to the other main character. This woman who has 2 kids. She has a tough life. She's a DA, and she's treated like garbage. She's treated like a item throughout this time. And it's also that whole part, like, the movie ends, and then there's a half hour left. Like, the embezzling part, like, after they get together and they're done with both the trials, like, yeah, the mobsters come and try to shoot him again, which is stupid. They should
those are the worst mob hitmen I've ever seen. They just come in the middle of a trial,
like where everyone can see them. Here's a hint: actual Italian mobs, kill him when he's sleeping.
Yeah, or just wait a little bit longer. He'll be once he's done, then you can take him out.
Kill him in his car. Blow up his car. Good old car bomb. No, stand up where everyone can see you in the middle of trial with every law enforcement person, cameras. Also, he's supposed to be okay. I'm thinking too much about this, considering how public he is about everything, and everyone knows he's in witness protection. But like, it appears this trial, at least even the first one, where they talked about being witness protection, is completely televised.
It does seem like there's at least a news component. Like, they may not be televising the trial, but we definitely see the reporter saying that, like, this guy Vinny is going to be here and he's going to be testifying against this mob guy, and like, so everybody knows that he's going to be there.
I know, and like, everyone knows what he looks like. I mean, the opposing lawyer basically like tries to figure out where he lives so they can kill him.
Yeah.
And no one they're like they object to it, but like they should be like, why did you ask that? Are you trying to help the mob kill this person?
Yeah, it's a mob lawyer. Yeah, like, it is kind of just, I guess we should talk about Hannah's life, and because we get a title card. These title cards continue throughout the movie, and they seem like a story shortcut.
They are. I mean, the idea is that Vinny is going to write a book, perhaps the book that inspired Goodfellas.
Oh fuck yeah! Well,
so these are like chapter headings from his book. Which, if you go by these title cards, it's not a very good book, but it sells great because he is so charming, and people would have him on TV, be like, "Look at this guy pretending to be Italian." He sounds kind of like Dracula sometimes.
Oh my God, his accent is all over the place. Like, sometimes it sounds like Dracula. There's a couple of words that might be a little New York Italian, but then there's other things where it sounds like he might be doing like a fucking Indian accent or like a Mexican accent. Like, it's all over the place. And I don't think it's on purpose. I think it's just he doesn't know what he's doing.
Sometimes he's just holding like a vowel sound and his mouth holds open for a while he thinks. He's like, I'm like, is he supposed to be slow? Like, he's supposed to be more clever than everybody else, but he takes because he's just struggling with his accent. Everything he says comes out at a glacial pace. And it's like, you're not quick and witty. You're Steve Martin in this movie playing a character. Like, you haven't folded into it at all. I don't keep harping on this, and I'm sure maybe there's somebody out there of the few people who get this who will be super, because it's not on the main feed, would love this performance. But like, if it sticks out within this. Like, Rick Moranis is just playing a dude. Joan Cusack is just playing a woman. Like, no one else is doing this thing that he's doing.
There's this video series that's been on Wired for a couple of years now, and it's an accent expert going through a bunch of different actors' roles when they try to put on accents. And sometimes he'll break down, like, just regular actors doing like a particular nation's accent, or he'll break down actors who are playing real people and see how they nailed their, manner of speech or whatever. But I haven't gone through all of these videos, but I'm hoping that there is one dedicated to Steve Martin's performance in this movie. I would love to see what this guy has to say about maybe we're wrong. Maybe he's doing an amazing job, but I just somehow doubt it.
Maybe he's doing such an accurate job that the actual Italian American actors are doing a bad job, and he sticks out because he's doing it at a different level of good than everybody else.
Everybody else is even though they are Italian, they are doing stereotypes.
Oh my God. We get William Hickey showing up as one year after being incredibly old in a Christmas Vacation. He shows up in this movie playing incredibly old.
Yeah, that's my William Hickey impression.
That's William Hickey's William Hickey's impression at this point in his career.
Yeah, I love this guy. Whenever he shows up, he always seems slightly drunk.
Yes.
And he's just a lovable presence. Anytime he shows up in a movie, he's been old forever, and he shows up, and it's just a pleasure to see him in a movie.
I have a question about his appearance in this movie.
Yes.
So, at a point in the movie, does not matter. Joan Cusack and Steve Martin go into a pet store. He is trying to. Basically, she needs to go buy a turtle because she killed her little wiener. She has 2 wiener kids, and I don't call them wiener kids lightly. They are dressed like little shitheads. This entire movie, they are just wiener kids, and one of them has a turtle. She says she won't kill it. She does kill it. She's got to replace it before they come back. They're with their dad.
She kills it in a horrible way.
Yes, in a terrible, painful way. It played for comedy.
Throws it down the garbage disposal.
He only asked her not to flush it down the toilet. She shreds it to death. So she needs to buy a new one to replace it before he gets back.
I was hoping that as she realizes what she's done and she starts to like push her hand in there, we were gonna get like an Amityville 4 situation where there's just like horrible black goo flying out of the thing or somebody's arm getting cut off.
Oh, if only. I mean, this movie needed a little something. That might have been it.
It needed some turtle goo flying into Joan Cusack's face.
This Michelangelo will never grow up to be a teenager.
Turtle
Died
soup.
Too young. So she's getting a new turtle. Vinny is just following her, trying to scam her for something. He just sees her, makes fun of her that she's now wearing high heel shoes after he shamed her about her sensible flats because, ladies can't wear comfortable shoes. It's embarrassing to them. And he follows her and he's talking about he's making up some story about, he misses his dog. And he didn't have a dog. He grew up in the sidewalks of the city that don't sleep. But they're in the pet store, and the pet store is run by William Hickey. And he's talking about the parrot, and like probably want a cracker. And Hickey says basically, "I don't say Polly want a cracker. It only says you're under arrest." And then Steve Martin turns to me like, "Oh, I knew a person once who had a parrot that said that." And then he turns and like Hickey goes like gives him a hand sign like, me and you know each other. Here's the thing. If you knew William Hickey and he's not doing anything to disguise himself, the second you heard his voice and looked at him, you would know I don't care if he's wearing an outfit, wearing a work outfit for a pet store. No one else looks like him. No one else sounds like him. And that's when he tells him, he goes, "Oh, I'm so glad you're here. I felt so alone." He's like, "You're not alone."
Yeah, he does. I mean, William Hickey is basically he sounds like the devil. I mean,
this was supposed to be a words of comfort that, what we find out is that, there's literally a dozen mobsters in town, this town alone, in witness protection. But the way he says it, it sounds like people are going to jump out and kill him.
Yeah, you're in hell. Alone. You're in hell and there are demons everywhere.
It's like anyone if you knew someone for a day in your life that talked like that, I don't care if you thought they died. You would assume it's them and their ghost.
This was the formerly named Johnny Bird, but he's now named Billy Sparrow. Like, really creative names.
We had a big long thing where he introduces himself to the other mobsters who he thought were dead, and they all give their real name and fake names. It's like he thought they were all dead. He said like, "Oh, it's a pallbearer at your." Sorry, I sounded too Italian there compared to him. Like I said, it was a pallbearer at your funeral. Yet nobody thinks Vinny's dead. He's in witness protection too. Everyone back home knows he's in witness protection.
Yeah, like because they know he's coming back to stand trial. So I guess it's weird to say that he's in witness protection because it's like, why move him? Why not put him in a big prison or just send him out and put him in a hotel somewhere on the other side of the country? Don't set him up with a place like that. Seems ridiculous because you know you're going to have to take him back to testify. If he were pretending to be dead, that would be one thing. Here's
the order of things, because he is testifying not out of the goodness of his heart, but as a plea bargain, right? That's how it's presented.
Yeah,
that means he has committed a crime, and they have him, and he's just doing this to get out or have his time commuted. You would keep him under lock and key in your facility, away from other mobsters and the public, in a prison until the day of the trial. Then he would give his testimony. Then he would disappear.
Yeah.
You don't give him a new identity in a new town for, I don't know, 2 weeks, then bring him back where everyone can see him. And he says, I'm in witness protection. I'm in a small town. To everyone. They talk about his paycheck. And then he's going to go back there where all the same town in this fucking continental United States, which has so many states that I don't even know the name of them all. Sometimes I hear about them and I think people are making it the fuck up. I assumed for years New Jersey was a city in New York. Anywhere in the country. And you know where you put him? You put him in a city where he can blend the fuck in. But you do it afterward. You do it before and then afterwards again. And then his name is on the stadium. Because after the trial, they stop giving a fuck.
Yeah, we never actually hear what happens with that trial, whether his testimony sends that guy away or if it's like overturned or if there was any kind of witness tampering or whatever.
I know how the mobsters found him for that last scene. He's in a stadium with his name on it. Not his fake name, his real name.
It should have been the whatever his name is, something Memorial Stadium.
Which, of course, they would have a memorial for him near San Diego, considering he is the most New York man who was ever drawn by a cartoonist.
Yeah, so he meets all of these mob guys, and this is where he gets the devastating news that he's not going to get those checks forever. So basically they are giving him like a per diem for hanging tight until the trial has happened. And then apparently once the testimony is done, he stops getting paid.
So what we're saying is they are paying him to have a new life in a new town. They give him a new house, but only so long until the trial ends, which appears to be about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So he's going to get about 2 checks and then he's on his own, at which point he would just move back to New York considering this character.
Yeah, because he doesn't have any reason to stay there. If there's no longer a thing where it's like you have to stay here because everyone thinks you're dead, then that would be one thing. But it's like they know that you're still alive, that you testified, so eventually they will find you and kill you.
Your wife moved back in 1 day.
Yeah, and we never hear anything else about that. She is alive at the end of the movie, thankfully.
She is, yeah, so that's great. Married to another mobster. No one...
Wait, she's married to another mobster who's also in witness protection.
How did she meet him?
I don't know. Who knows? Maybe he went back for a trial.
It is great that the mobsters, and apparently he knows tons of mobsters, tons of turncoat mobsters, but also tons of mobsters back home when he goes back to New York. He knows all these mobsters. Luckily, none of them apparently in the employ of the one he turned against.
Yeah, except for the bartender at that one bar.
Right. So once he shoots the guns out of the hands of the two who are trying to shoot him, that's all he'll ever have to deal with. And they're
he's all good.
In broad fucking daylight.
With a bunch of cops around.
A bunch of cops. Jesus Christ. I'm only making fun of this because this movie decides to have a plot, but it doesn't want a plot. Like, it wants to be a movie where Steve Martin takes Rick Moranis to a bunch of different places and teaches him and John Cusack how to live from their boring staid lives. You can do that without him being a character who, by necessity, should be hidden all the time.
Yeah, and it's weird that the trial is not the end of the movie.
Not even close.
It's very bizarre. Like, when they got there, I was like, oh, okay, they must be getting close to the end because he's going to do what he has to do, and maybe there's going to be an attack on his life or something like that, but they'll foil it, and everything will be good, and he'll decide that he actually does enjoy it there in the little small town or whatever. But, like, yeah, they kind of do the trial, and then he kind of does seem to enjoy it there because everyone knows him. Like, all the kids are fans of his.
He's the most famous person in town, and the town's full of mobsters, and he's doing crime there.
Yeah, okay, so that's the thing. He's talking with them. He finds out that he's not going to get paid forever, and so he just suggests, well, we've got tons of mobsters here. We might as well start our own crime wave. And then they're like, yeah, good idea. We didn't think of that.
What's fantastic is that we're supposed to think he's honest to God a really good guy down deep. He just happens to love crime. Unfortunately, he has to testify against bad mobsters, but he's a good mobster. What is this good mobster?
I don't know. I mean, he's stealing things. Like, it's still happening. Like, he's still doing a bad thing. He
is hijacking trucks off the highway, probably with guns.
Trucks that contain computers, but also big fish.
Big fish, and not the band, not real big fish, but
but a giant swordfish that he puts in his trunk.
A giant swordfish. CD players, which
no, tape players, my friend.
They do pull up a CD player at one point. It looks the same as a tape player, though.
But when she pulls him over after the first big truck heist, he has 40 tape players, a fish, and a bunch of books. And the funniest thing to me was that a perfect 90s a little microcosm here. The tape players were meant for Radio Shack, rest in peace, and the books were meant for B. Dalton, rest in peace.
I mean, they could have been driving these to the prize warehouse for classic concentration.
Oh my God, if only.
That's a joke for us. But my God, so he's doing these crime waves. He's caught immediately again. Joan Cusack, Hannah, is like, what are you doing? And then we have another, no less than the fourth time where she just interrogates him and he comes up with ridiculous lies. And it just goes on and on. It fills the run time. It's what you're there for. Him in his terrible accent, this terrible wig, making her feel like an idiot. And then finally, when they can't figure out why she wouldn't arrest him, they have Rick Moranis show up and say, "Hey, I'm taking him." That's how they end. They end a lot of scenes like, we don't know how to get away out of this, so we'll have Rick come in and say, "I'm taking him," and then walk off.
And this is the scene where he tells this very in bad taste joke that Rick Moranis apparently is so tickled by that he uses it later, which is, what is the difference between a light bulb and a pregnant woman? You can't unscrew a light bulb.
It's not funny.
No.
It wasn't funny then. he acts like this is like a revolutionary joke. Like the revelation to him. Like, oh my God, jokes can be this funny?
Well, it's him saying, like, previous to him telling this joke, he is like on Hannah's case about having no sense of humor. And then he tells this joke and she stares at him, which is the right reaction. And he's like, see, no sense of humor. And then later we see Rick Moranis telling this joke to a flight attendant on their plane ride back from New York. And this woman is just guffawing up a storm.
Like, literally, when he started telling it and I realized what he was going to do, I had to pause the movie and consider doing a 30 seconds time skip. So I would see nothing of what this was going on. I was just so irritated that it was coming back up. It'd be like, say, like a great comedian, a famous comedian, not Steve Martin, because we're going to go even further. Let's say a Dane Cook shows up at Madison Square Garden, sold out to the rafters, standing room only. Everyone is fucking Shazam excited for this huge star, this sexy Dane Cook. He's at his height of his powers, 2002, right? Walks up to the mic, says, how many flies does it take to screw in a light bulb? The whole crowd goes into a hush. Everyone wants to know what this answer is. What will it be? What offbeat, irreverent line will he deliver? And then he goes, 2, but don't ask me how they got in there. And then everyone fucking rises from their seats and goes nuts for a 10-minute standing ovation. People almost dying. And then he walks off stage and he's never seen again because he said the perfect fucking joke. Why would you have Steve Martin, a fucking legend of comedy, and you could have him say anything here because you know it's going to come back later. Any joke. And that's what they picked.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad, and the fact that they bring it back again just makes me hate it even more. So there's a whole bunch of stuff when they are in New York. He is able to get away from Barney through incredibly dumb means. Barney finds him at the tailor. He gives him a fun suit that is apparently $1,200, which he doesn't tell Barney, and he just charges it to Barney's credit card. And they end up out at a bar through a whole series of events. It's not really worth going into exactly how, because it's just Vinny being Vinny trying to get out of a situation. And
which at this point, he's already ditched DA office, the federal defense office. Like, he's supposed to go through like mock questioning and like getting prep for the case, for the trial, and he just keeps skipping it to hang out with his buddies, publicly with other mobsters, and going to clubs. At some point, there are other feds in the nation who aren't Barney Coopersmith who would walk in and just grab him by his arms like, you're not fucking going anywhere.
I mean, yeah, you would think that would potentially happen. Maybe like, as we said, this is the counterpoint to Goodfellas. Like, let's see this in a double feature. Let's watch Goodfellas and then fucking My Blue Heaven and see what kind of tonal whiplash you get from that.
Oh, I mean, fans, if you want to do that and come back to us and tell us that and just tell us how you think Steve Martin, Vinny Anatoly how he would have fared in the Goodfellas universe, please let me know. I would love some fanfic for that.
That's a great idea. Let's flip-flop the main characters. Let's throw Vinny into Goodfellas and let's take Ray Liotta's Henry Hill and let's toss him into this movie. Let's see how that works.
I want to see like an intense Ray Liotta in this movie, just instead of just sitting around lying and just with his mouth open as he tries to figure out what his accent's going to be the next sentence, just fucking just being angry at everybody and scaring the shit out of them with beautiful eyes.
Oh, that would be amazing. So this is where he's trying to help Barney, like, get some confidence and tells him how to talk to women, basically.
Here's where I was almost happy. So his whole plan is, I have confidence and you don't. It's like, he goes, technically, you're better looking than me. He's lying because he's always lying. But I look the ladies in the eye and you don't. That's why I always get the girl. I was sure he was going to neg them.
Yeah, it does seem like that's a potential thing that's coming, but thankfully it does not go there.
I mean, he does neg Joan Cusack pretty hard about the shoes early on.
Yes, I mean he's not good to her, but to these random women in a bar, he is, I guess, decent. But they go up to these two women and then ask them to dance. Barney doesn't know how, of course, but Vinny teaches him the merengue. And they have this big giant dance number throughout the club.
Synchronized dancing, synchronized butt wiggling.
With Barney trying to learn how to dance and Vinny showing him. And at one point, like, Vinny just grinding up on Barney as he teaches him how to move his hips, which was like, okay, maybe a little close, my friend. But yeah, they do this whole big dance number. And then at the end of the dance, these two mob guys come in, pull guns, and are about to shoot Vinny. But Barney is able to fire randomly at the chandelier and just scare them away, which is very weird, again, for mobsters. These guys are not the brightest hitmen, I think. They go into a courtroom in the middle of the day, they approach a guy in broad daylight with cops around, and they also run away when a chandelier is shot.
I like whenever they show up, they're always standing side by side. They never take different angles, so there's no point for both of them to be shooting from the same spot.
No.
And they always smile like, gotcha. Right before
there are two of you. One of you go around back in case he decides to make a run for it.
I want them going back to their boss and like, so did you get him? Like, no, some guy shot a chandelier and it fell down like at the bottom of the steps and we were at the top of the steps.
And we couldn't go around it.
Like, well, there was two of you. How many guns did they have? One. But he shot down the chandelier.
You don't understand. There was a lot of glass.
It's not like and then like Vinny and Barney like run out the back door and like escape. They don't. They just go back to the hotel like it was nothing.
Yeah.
And I also want to mention about the dance number. It is very long. It goes on very long. It goes on for several minutes.
Yeah, because I was trying to like take notes while I was watching it, and then the dance number started, and I was like, okay, I can take a break because nothing is really happening that I need to really pay attention to here. They go back to town after the whole trial and everything. Vinny is very happy, seemingly, to be there. He's mowing the grass in one of his suits. He's friendly with lots of people there in the neighborhood.
I assume every commercial showed part of the dance number and him mowing the lawn.
Oh, 100%. Actually, before we end the episode, we should look at a trailer for My Blue Heaven to see what that trailer looks like. But I can almost guarantee you, definitely him mowing the grass in his suit, and also definitely the dance number. And on the poster, he's standing next to a lawnmower.
I mean, it is an iconic scene.
It's literally like 3 seconds. Like, it's nothing. But yet that is the image they chose to sell the movie on. He gives some baseball tickets to Hannah and her kids, and he goes by her house with a limo and takes them to San Diego to see a baseball game, which is insane to me. I don't feel like, again, as you've already said, they're writing Hannah very dumb, because I don't feel like a DA would let her children go hang out with a mobster who's in witness protection.
The mobster who's in witness protection, who she has tried to arrest multiple times. Yes, she knows him from interrogating him and him being a shithead to her in a pet store, right?
Yeah.
Like, all he's done to her is lie, try to get out of things and make her life miserable. I mean, right now, they are acquaintances in that they have spent time in the same room together, and they are both stars in the movie. You know, sometimes, like, there's two characters in a movie, but they are both named stars. And if you think about it, during the run of time of the movie, at some point, like, their bosom, like, they are just hanging out, and they appear to know each other very well. But if you think about it, like, if their lives are real, they have spent 5 or 6 minutes with each other up until this point. but we are familiar with them because they're both the stars. So we assume they are familiar with each other as well. So this is what this feels like. Like they both realize, oh, we're both the stars of this movie, so we probably would hang out together. We are both named characters in this town, so I would more likely hang out with you, this person who in real life I would be afraid of because I know you're a mobster and you have been committing a crime wave in my city that the FBI will not let me charge you on, but I have caught you red-handed. And you've done nothing but lie to me and be aggressive to me. But now you have decided to put it upon yourself to spend time with me for the express reason to get your friend, who I also know and I should also dislike, but we are both also named actors and named characters in this town and movie, to get him laid. I will be the vessel for him being laid.
I'm crying.
But that's their familiarity.
That's it. I mean, you're right. That's totally what it is. It's. I mean, again, are we being too hard on this very lighthearted, silly comedy? Maybe a little. I don't know. Like,
I'm just trying to find something to say about the movie, so I'm really going hard on it.
Because that's what it is, though. Like, this movie is so just down the middle. Like, it's not like the stuff with Hannah. It's kind of bad, especially viewed from today's perspective. When, well, I was going to say when women are people, but as we've seen by some recent legislation, some people still don't believe that. But like, you know, back then, though, like this was viewed as just right down the middle, super straightforward, kind of breezy comedy. But like, I don't know. It's just kind of like I don't dislike this movie, but I also can't really recommend it because it's just kind of there, you know?
Right. I mean, you would have, if this was on, and I assume it was, Comedy Central back in 1994 through 1999.
Oh, for sure.
And on an afternoon, and you had a cold where you couldn't fall asleep. No matter how many drugs you took, like you had to sit up and you just can't get comfortable sitting up and falling asleep. This movie came on, like you'd be like, okay, I'll get through it. I'm never gonna laugh out loud because I can't, because I'm stuffed up and it would just shoot snot everywhere anyways. But like, I know these actors and I'm comfortable with them, so I will spend some time with them. And that's what this movie is. You're spending time. You're being sold on like, hey, you know Rick Moranis, you know Joan Cusack, you think you know Steve Martin, but look at this wig on him. Look at this wig on this guy. Look at it. He's mowing a lawn for 3 fucking seconds.
But that's how we're going to sell our movie. At some point in the baseball game, he talks to the kids. The kids talk about how they need a new stadium. And he's like,
unimportant.
Well, it is important later, sort of. I mean, that's basically the end of the movie.
The last like 29 minutes.
Yeah. He says, oh, you guys should do a fundraiser. At the same time, he's still doing this crime ring. At one point, they get a shipment that's just empty water jugs that you would get at like your office for the water cooler. And so he's like, I see an opportunity here. I see potential. You guys see just a bunch of empty bottles. I'm the smart one in this crime ring. And he puts out the jugs at various places with signs on them that says collecting money for the Little League. Donate big for the Little League. They're trying to build a new stadium. And he collects a shit ton of money because we see Shaldine, like, is that her name? I just came up with that name in my head, but I think that's what it is.
It is. That's
okay, good. It sounded weird coming out of my mouth because I don't think that's a name anyone's ever had. But we see her like going through the money, counting it, rolling out the quarters and pennies and everything that he's collected. And it seems like a ton of money. Enough to build an entire fucking stadium by the end of the movie. So
don't worry, there shouldn't be this much money because they're apparently in the middle of nowhere next to San Diego.
Yeah, but like he goes to the point of doing all of this. There is a subplot in here about Barney going undercover as a Canadian, which I thought you might have enjoyed.
Well, they did wear plaid. That was, they wore Canadian clothes. That's great.
I mean, Rick Moranis is from Canada, right?
Yes, he absolutely is.
So, because he was on SCTV and all that. So,
here's the thing about that. This seems so unnecessary. It was the idea, he was finally his mojo back, he came to work. He has a fancy suit, so they're going to promote him because he looks like he would get fucked now, right? And so they're like, he'd been complaining he wanted to go undercover, but now he's in love because he had a dance off with. They go to the baseball game. It's a meet cute. He gives tickets to both Barney and Stella, and they have a baseball game, and then they're out somewhere. Steve Martin takes care of his kids for a night out. They go dancing. They dance forever. Oh
my God! They do the merengue again.
Yes, they do the merengue, and it every time I thought it would end, it didn't, and a lot of it's done in silhouette, which is. As a short guy, I almost hate to find this that's funny, but the height difference between Rick Moranis and Joan Cusack in heels is crazy, especially in silhouette. And then Moranis's partner, who he's about to go in undercover with, does this long disco, you see the sunset behind him.
He's doing the merengue. I mean, that's what he's doing. And he's good at it too. But man, he's into it.
I was trying to figure out they were trying to code something in 1990 talk with that, but how flamboyantly he was dancing.
Yeah,
and he's a single guy.
I could see that. They don't do anything else though, so maybe it's just this guy fucking loves merengue.
He certainly does, but he doesn't now. The first part of the movie, he wanted to go undercover. Then it's dropped for a long time, and who could give a fuck about it? Now he's got this thing, so he has to go undercover, and they don't know when it's going to be. And they're like, "Oh," he's like, "I gotta stay because it's a 2-part trial. There's the sequel's coming up. I have to take my man to that. We never see that part. They're like, "Oh, we can't promise that. It could be done in 2, or the stakeout could be done in 2 days. It could be longer." He's like, "Man, he's like, oh, but I just started dating somebody." And they're like, I mean, he's not gonna be gone for fucking months, but they act like he's gonna be he's ditching.
Well, how long are they gone?
I don't know. It's hard. The time in this movie is hard to tell. I thought they were setting up. I thought for serious they're setting up that they were taking him off Vinny, and then they were gonna have the mob had paid off the local chapter or whatever, the FBI, and that someone he was gonna be replaced by somebody who was actually working with the FBI, and then he would with the mob, and they would kidnap Vinny, and then the last part of the movie, because it's 29 minutes left, and it seems like it's done at this point. They've got fallen in love, blah blah blah, and I thought okay, he'll come back from this, he'll figure out this undercover thing was all fake. He'll come back, Vinny will be gone, and then he'll have to go find him, right? No,
yeah.
What happens is that Vinny is arrested again by this woman who let him have let her kids hang out with him. Mrs. Stubbs, and he's like, well, I know where the real crooks are. I'll lead you to them, and he leads them to their stakeout, and then that part of the movie's over.
Yeah, that part doesn't matter anymore at that point. It's okay, cool.
I was also confused with the empty water jugs, because they come up the lesser mobsters come up to our main dude and are like, our buyer's coming soon and we got nothing. All we got are these empty water coolers. It's like, I see opportunity. I'm like, and then his opportunity is collect coins. That doesn't solve the problem. They have nothing to sell to these other people who are coming expecting goods.
Well, that's what I was wondering. Are they trying to collect money in order to give the money to the? Well, that doesn't make any sense. Were they going to buy stuff that they could then sell to the fake buyers at more money?
It's hard to tell. Also, I can't tell how long this was going on for.
I don't know, because he collects a lot of money very quickly. The kids see this, and
this is also happening between Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Oh, yes, you're right.
So
oh my God, I forgot about it. That means the whole movie takes place between Thanksgiving and Christmas, because he first encounters Hannah out, and he first meets Billy Sparrow, or Johnny Bird, whatever his fucking name is, William Hickey, at the pet store on Thanksgiving.
So they go
because that's the little chapter header, is that even on Thanksgiving people go to the mall, and so that's when he meets her, and so the rest of the movie takes place between in the 5 weeks between Thanksgiving and Christmas,
which are very nice outside San Diego apparently. Also, the San Diego Padres are playing baseball in December. This movie does not I hate giving shit because it obviously doesn't care. This movie really does not care.
That was funny to me, and I don't even watch baseball, so I don't even know what the schedules are.
You don't even know if the team in your town is still even active.
Nope. But anyway, all of this stuff happens. She decides she's going to push for a trial anyway. They have the trial. It doesn't go right because the mob guys show up, and that's when they have this whole big thing, and Vinny tries to escape. He and Crystal run off together. Crystal gives him her gun and says, "Just say I was your prisoner so I can go with you." And they ride off to the site of the new baseball park that they're building. All the mobsters are just helping out by building all this stuff.
Now, apparently, while in prison, he called them up and said, "Start making a stadium." So I have a cover for. So my cover that I used, my lie would be true. But they couldn't create signs, a billboard, that quickly. They're just mobsters.
You don't know that. Johnny Bird's a great graphic designer.
Oh, I suppose, you would know the legend of Johnny Bird in your graphic design field there. So
Johnny Bird, one of the greatest mafia graphic designers the world has ever seen. Some say he died, but others say he disappeared into the mist and goes by Billy Sparrow now, but that's unconfirmed.
I'm glad they were able to get the permits to build the baseball field there in time, is all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, okay.
In December.
So all this stuff works out, basically. The mob hitmen are arrested. It's great. We flash forward a year later to opening day, which I suppose is also in December.
San Diego's a hell of a town.
The stadium is the home of the Freiburg Turtles. Freiburg is the little community they live in, and Turtles is the name of the team. I guess those two kids got to decide what their team was called, what the mascot was.
What I'm impressed is that they go to a lot of baseball. Like they go to the baseball game. They're going to baseball game again here. This time it's minor leagues. If I was Barney, I'd be like, man, it really fucking bums me out going to all these baseball games because it kind of reminds me of that baseball player who fucked my wife behind my back and then left the boring suburb of San Diego to move to Wichita because he was being sent to the minors from the San Diego Padres in fucking November.
All the concession guys are the mobsters. They are selling not only hot dogs and sodas, but also CD players and televisions. And so I wonder if that means that they are still continuing their crime ring.
Of course they are, but they're the city's criminals. Like, mobsters are only bad 2% of the time. That other 90%, heart of goals, just love marinara. And they do crime for fun. They don't know anything else. They never learned any other trades. They have to. Why are we judging them so poorly? And I don't mean to upset any mobsters on our Patreon. I don't. Any of our patrons are mobsters. That's great. But, you can do better than starting up a baseball stadium.
Imagine how many people they've buried under that stadium. Jimmy Hoffa was apparently buried at the 50-yard line of whatever that stadium was. How many guys have they buried in the Freiburg Turtle Stadium?
There's a joke they could have made, but they didn't because these are friendly mobsters.
What if Vinny had gone to throw out the first pitch, which he throws out from like the third baseline for some reason, which I do understand that, even though I don't get baseball. I know that you don't throw it from not the pitcher's mound, but what if he had gone up to throw it from the pitcher's mound and there'd been like a fucking hand sticking out of there and he'd kind of like brush the dirt back over it?
I wish there's two things that they could have done, and we'll talk about the kids' baseball outfits in a second. Also, now Vinny looks like a mixture of Max Headroom and Ronald McDonald in his outfit.
Oh my God, this crazy white suit that he's wearing.
But besides, like, this man is so great for this town. They all love him so much, and he's clearly robbing them all blind, and has a huge crime spree. And his two best friends are law enforcement. Like, why stop at naming the city, like the stadium after him? Why not name the city after him? And name the state New Australia, because there's so many fucking transplanted criminals in this city.
The New Australia Turtles. Yeah, you mentioned their baseball uniforms, which look like the suit that he's wearing. They look like little mini. Well, okay, this is going to sound weird. They look like mini Little Richards.
They show like all 9 kids wearing this outfit. And I'm like, what a large amount of work went into making these ridiculous outfits for this one sight gag that adds nothing to the movie.
Yeah, they look like mega church preachers. And of course the band at the baseball game is playing the merengue, because obviously. And Vinny and Crystal have had a kid. Vinny's written a book.
Why wasn't the kid wearing a suit? Josh Hollis, why did they not have a baby wearing a mini version of Vinny's suit? Why did it not have a little baby wig to match Vinny's hair? Why was it a
that
girl?
would have been good. Like in Addams Family Values, when they have their new child Pubert, and he looks exactly like Gomez with his little mustache. Like, yes. That's what should have happened. He should have had a crazy little wig on. But I think their child is a daughter. But it would still would have worked.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's exactly what I was thinking about. That if you're going to make a whole baseball team wear baseball outfits that are also suits that match what Vinny's wearing at that moment, that baby must be wearing that suit. Motherfucker, that baby should be wearing a goddamn tailored suit. And a wig.
He's also written a book called How I Got Here, which they are selling at the stadium as well. And I guess this is what he's writing in jail right before the end of the movie. And that's it. It ends on a baseball game, and that's the film. It's it's fine.
Right. I mean, this is a month where we've gone from Killing Satan to My Blue Heaven. So we've covered everything.
Oh, we've gone from hell to heaven.
Hell to heaven.
And we stopped on Earth for a little while to talk about Diana.
You know what? I'm not sure who wore a crazier suit. The devil, Satan himself, in his little weird tuxedo in Killing Satan, or whatever the fuck Vinny is wearing at the end of this movie.
But before we wrap it up, as I mentioned, we should take a look at the trailer for My Blue Heaven and see how this thing is actually advertised. So we're gonna take a quick pause, and then we'll be right back to tell you if we see him mow that grass and dance a bunch in this trailer.
Vincenzo, vieni cara.
Oh, Mom. Former gangster Vincent Vinny Antonelli
I'm a new man.
is being placed under federal protection.
Not the old me.
Hidden in suburbia,
This is the new me.
assigned his own personal FBI agent.
Now, this is a real nice house. It's one of the nicest we've ever moved anyone like you into. Hey, Linda, what do you think?
I always promised you a nice house somewhere in America.
Let's not get carried away, okay, Vinny?
It's going to be a lot easier if you two start calling each other Terry and Todd.
It's a nice house, Terry, okay?
No, you're Terry and he's Todd.
When Wilfer will call. Thanks for everything. I really appreciate it. And evening is nice.
This is my job. I get paid. You don't tip FBI, man.
Sure you do. I lead you to my blue heaven.
The man is a government asset. He has to testify at 2 major mob trials in New York in the immediate future.
Being in the witness protection program may save Vinny's life.
Boom.
I just want you to keep your nose clean. Capiche?
You trying to say capiche?
Yeah.
Well, don't do it, because it hurts my ears when you do it.
But who's going to save the suburbs from Vinny?
You know, it's dangerous for you to be here in the frozen food section.
Why is that?
Because you could melt all this stuff.
The comedy that asks the question, can an urban hood find suburban hood?
Would you like to try a vanilla bran oat crunchy?
What do you think?
Steve Martin, Rick Moranis.
Have a nice day. Up yours.
All right, so we're back. We watched the trailer. I don't know if it was exactly the actual trailer or that's like a version of. We don't know what version it was or whatever. But yeah, there is some dancing, and we get the final shot of the trailer is him mowing the grass in that suit. And it's fun to watch trailers. Again, looking back, kind of at the way that film has progressed, because trailers looked pretty different in 1990.
I mean, they had the narrator that they all had, and there's a certain pace you expect now, and this trailer was just showing you some scenes.
Yeah, like entire scenes almost.
It was about a minute 44 seconds, and like just not fast, quick one-liners. Just here's a scene. Here's a scene. He can't push this fucking without context. He can't push the shopping cart. It just slides all over the place. However, I saw the movie and I still don't know why he can't. Like, I understand if you don't understand how shopping works, but a thing with 4 wheels and a handle, there's no one on earth who couldn't use that.
But yeah, it's I'm so ambivalent about recommending this one way or the other. I mean, I'm happy that we watched it because I think it led to a fun, fruitful discussion, as always. But yeah, I mean, if you're a Steve Martin or Rick Moranis completist, you've probably already seen it. And if you're not one of those things, then put it on when you're sick, like you mentioned earlier.
Just, have it on. I mean, it was a cheap rental. I mean, you could do worse. I mean, you certainly could do better. But
well, I mean, we've done worse this month alone. So
I think this
think
movie had a fucking coherent plot, even if I spent the entire podcast shitting all over its consistencies.
I think that's a good place to wrap up this Patreon episode on My Blue Heaven. Thank you again to Gigi Launchbaugh for recommending this film to us this month. And until next month, when we're back doing another film picked by one of our patrons, I've been Josh.
I've been Skinner. Capiche?
Are you trying to say capiche? Don't do it, because it hurts my ears. And we predict you'll join us.
You should be a movie star.